Every day, students enter classrooms across Pennsylvania with potential. Potential to learn, grow, and be successful. Your calling as a teacher is to help them reach that potential. You spend each day educating, empowering, and inspiring. You know teaching isn't just a job, and it isn't always easy, but you believe in what you do, because what you do makes a difference today, tomorrow, and forever.
I can lead. I can solve problems. I feel safe. I'm a leader.
I believe in myself.
I'm an artist.
I'm a team player.
I belong.
I'm going to college.
I never gave up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Pedro Rivera, Secretary of Pennsylvania's Department of Education. On behalf of the entire Commonwealth, we thank you. Good morning, everyone. Oh, we can do better than that. Let's try that again. You act as if I haven't been up here for 3 years, waiting for you to give me a loud good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. The good news is Matt did such a phenomenal job with the introduction and just kind of setting the stage for the next few days. I just crossed things off of my talking points as he went along, so I'm literally going to be up here for like 3 seconds. Maybe a little longer. But I do want to take a moment and really a point of administrative privilege and really share how proud I am of the work that Matt and our team at PD have done over the course of the almost 3 years, 2.5 years, aligning what we do to Harrisburg to meeting the needs of you all in our schools, our school districts, our intermediate units, career and technical education centers, our higher education partners, our business partners, throughout our education community. Because we understood that if we were going to transform this world of education, we needed to go beyond checking boxes and work to think and create a culture of innovation. And it's interesting, in 2.5 years, as we get to come together and really engage in conversation with you all, we're no longer, or you're no longer asking us about Form 81-A or 346B. You're now discussing and sharing with us about practice and how to improve the quality of life of kids. And we're having conversations around technology and science, engineering, math. Kind of just rolls off your tongue once you start, right? But we're now having conversations around how to differentiate and establish opportunities for full communities. And that is exactly what the conversations of educators should be. So if you could, allow me to ask the team at PD to please stand, and if you would share and join with me. So stand up, guys. See, they never want some recognition. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for all you do each and every day on behalf of our world of education. So I always like to start off with this video as a quick thank you, because there's no way one person could thank all of you enough for the work that you do each and every day. And quite frankly, I'm always humbled as I have opportunities to engage and interact with educators in events like this, because I continue to hear stories about what's happening in your classrooms and your buildings, what's happening in your communities, and I continue to be in awe. I continue to, I can't say surprised, because you can no longer surprise me with the great things that are happening, but always 2 thoughts go through my head. The first is, that is absolutely impressive. And the second is, why didn't we think of that when I was in the classroom, or I was leading a building, or I was leading a school district? Because that is an amazing idea. So what I get to do now as secretary and share with Matt and David and the team as we visit all of you, we don't even share our own, ideas and our own practice. We say, hey, I saw this up in the northwestern part of the state. Or when visiting, the southeast, here's something that I noticed, you should connect with them. Or when we were in central PA or visiting school districts and classrooms, before school and after school programs, summer programming. Here's some great practice that we've seen. You should really connect and, steal that idea, as we like to say. Because in education, and, I say it over and over again, that's what we do. We steal from each other, right? We call it best practice. Made a name so we don't feel so bad about stealing. And it's okay because we don't always have to give each other credit. We know that, the greatest form of flattery is if you're using my practice, if you're engaging with my lesson in your classroom. Because I know that it worked for me, and you seeing that it works for you is exactly why we engage as educators. So today, as I share in front of you and continue to engage in this humbling experience, I want to use my few minutes to ensure that I'm sharing with you what our next year, what our talking points and our focus for the next year is going to be, but not just as an update session. Because you know what I've learned over the course of the past almost 3 years, 2+ years, is that there's amazing work happening in each and every one of our schools across the state, and yet educators are so humble. Educators are so busy engaging in their work day to day that we forget to stand up and celebrate our successes. And I know I continue to share that you're 7 times more likely to share a negative experience than you are a positive experience. So each and every one of us has to be 7 times more diligent to share the positive things that are happening in our schools. So I'm going to continue to start doing that from the podium in front of you all, and keep nagging you to do the same until you do. Because we know there are a community of legislators, there are a community of neighbors, there are a community of business and industry leaders that have no idea how hard you work each and every day. That have no idea the difference you make not only in your classroom, but throughout your communities every day. And the quote that I stole from Grove City, they have no idea that each and every one of you is in the occupation that creates all other occupations. So the job of the state's top educator is not only to be the #1 advocate in Harrisburg and at the Capitol, but to be the biggest and loudest cheerleader in each and every one of your communities. And I do that myself, and we love having the opportunity to do that as a team throughout the Commonwealth. So as I share with you what the next year is going to look like for us in PDE, I ask that you take this information and you share it with your local constituencies, you share it with your parents, with your administrators, share it with your students. Because if we have another year like the year we've had in the past 2 years, we're going to have much to celebrate when we all come together next year. Because you have been extremely successful. You have made a difference in the lives of kids each and every day. But more importantly, your work has been recognized not only throughout the state, but across the country. And for that, you deserve a great deal of gratitude, a great deal of thanks, but most importantly, a great deal of respect. So we know that we come together through the SAS Institute, we always utilize 6 elements, right? So we focus on standards, we focus on assessments, curriculum framework, instruction, materials, and resources. But I want to share with you some stats that have really made a difference in the lives of our students. Because of you, the Commonwealth currently ranks 4th nationally in the number of STEM graduates. We rank in the top 10 states for technology and innovation. And we know that our education system produces the workforce that drives our economy. That's even been published in national journals. From pre-K through college and graduate programs, some of the strongest schools in the country are found right here in the Keystone State. So while we're a national leader in STEM, we know that we're also home to some of the top graduates in business and industry. And as we focus on that word graduate, we know that our graduates acquire industry certificates, 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees, and advanced degrees. We know that we made important progress in delivering more resources to schools and classrooms, but we know there's still much more that must be done. And our successes are going to continue to make the case as to why our lawmakers, our communities, our business and industry leaders must continue to invest in that cross-sector dialogue to not only support high-quality instruction, but provide for work-based learning, career pathways, and college access, but most importantly, completion. We know that the research suggests that demand for education and job training to fill high and middle skilled jobs, including jobs in the STEM field, continues to increase. And we know it's the only way we will continue to grow the middle class. It's the only way we will continue to transform communities. We know that according to the Center for Education at the Workforce at Georgetown, 63% of jobs in PA will require some form of post-secondary education and training, and yet we're currently at that 41% number. So there's absolutely, within those successes, there's absolutely the need and the room for growth. So as we engaged in the ESSA plan that Matt shared earlier, we knew we needed to change the conditions in which educators were performing each and every day. We needed to move away from a culture of test taking and test teaching and test scheduling to a focus on teaching and learning and meeting the needs of students. And I have to credit the team for making the commitment, taking the time, and evaluating the resources to not only create a narrative around change of culture, but engaging in that practice by reducing our test material or the test content by 2 full sections, giving you 2 days back for instruction, but most importantly, looking at offering the test as late as possible in the school year to allow you to engage in more instructional time before taking the test. Because as we heard stories where folks were looking at the content and the weight of an assessment and back mapping to understand and identify what should be taught when, as opposed to using specific skill sets and the needs of kids to identify what should be taught, it was heartbreaking. And as an educator, we knew we didn't want to come in to a classroom, into a school building, into a school district, and identify what we're going to test on to evaluate and assign what's going to be taught. We wanted to make sure that we knew what was needed in business, industry, in our communities, and back mapped and scaffolded accordingly. So we wanted educators like you to have the resources, the time, and the alignment at your disposal to better instruct kids in the classrooms. We didn't want for you to have to come to school on the first day and already start to worry about a test. Many of you have heard me share the story about my son, who wanted me to sign his opt-out letter, and he was really upset with me when I refused. I'll give you an update. When he was watching the news, and I don't talk about work much when I go home, and they announced the fact that they were reducing the PSSA. He's now in 8th grade. They're reducing PSSA by two content areas, so there are 2 less days of testing. And I felt really good when he looked up and said, Dad, it's probably the coolest thing you've ever done in your whole life. I said, you're going to tell your friends about me? Said, don't push it. But it also was very telling when our students know of the stress that are created as a result of this environment and this culture that we create, that we know we have to address it. So moving forward through Future Ready PA and focusing on achievement and growth, focusing on on-track measures, focusing on college and career access and awareness, is not only going to change the landscape of how we teach, but it's going to change the landscape of the conversations we engage in each and every day in rooms like this and rooms across the Commonwealth. You know, we're the only state in the country that is actually focusing on college and career awareness as early as elementary school, because it makes sense. Probably as importantly is because you told us as educators, this is where we needed to start. As an educator, we realized that as early as third grade, parents were already starting to talk about not being able to afford to send their kids to some post-secondary institution. So we've learned and we knew, and it was reinforced to us that we needed to start earlier. But we wanted to make sure we engage in this conversation in a meaningful way. We wanted to ensure that we identified 3 guiding principles. And this is important for us to share. First, because we want you to continue to share, but more importantly, we want you to hold me and our Department of Education accountable to ensuring these principles. We want to ensure multiple, transparent, and easy to understand indicators of school success. When you're asked whether or not you're successful in your classroom, in your school, in your community, we want you to articulate the fact that you are in a clear measure, in a clear manner that parents actually understand. We want you to engage in educational conversation in a way that's going to help us grow advocates as opposed to ensure confusion. We want to make sure that our second guiding principle of equity in education opportunity, in educational opportunity, and achievement for all students. Every student should have an opportunity to receive a world-class education, regardless of zip code. We should not allow socioeconomics to dictate the quality of education you're receiving. We should not allow zip code to identify what type of teacher you have. We should not allow opportunities where building to building differ depending on who walks in and who walks out of your building. And that's going to continue to take a lot of work from our department. It's going to continue to take a great deal of advocacy on my behalf. But this is where I'm going to continue to need your support and your help. This is where I'm going to ask that when you go home and you engage in conversations with your local lawmakers, with your parents, with your business leaders, in your free and professional time, that we continue to advocate for equity for all students. And we continue to say, if it's good enough for my kid, then it should be good enough for every kid. And if you're not receiving enough, then you should absolutely expect for more. And if you're in a great place with a great district with great resources, we're not saying you have to give up your resources. Because there's this misnomer out there that whenever you discuss equity, it means you're trying to cut a piece of someone else's pie, or trying to reduce what one community receives from another. And that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is equity for all students. Taking what our most resourced communities have and working to ensure all communities have access to those same resources. And lastly, we want to ensure innovation in teaching and learning in schools and in classrooms. Because we know that innovation happens in the classroom, which is why you're here today to learn from each other, which is why we're here today to learn from you, and which is why we're going to continue to steal, post, share, and identify you as best practice practitioners in education. Because we have some of the best, the smartest, the brightest educators here in the Commonwealth, and we look forward to continuing to highlight those successes. I also want to take a moment and really identify what we've learned over the course of the past year. We know that our children deserve the best teachers available for kids. So we have to improve our teacher pipeline. In conversations with many of you, we know, we've seen what the numbers show what you felt. 63% decrease in the number of first-time certified teachers. So as we're looking to change this narrative in education, as we're looking to build teacher voice, we know it's not only about identifying best practice and improving the quality of life of students in our classrooms, but it's about improving the quality of life of our teachers. It's about encouraging the next generation of teachers to enter the workforce, prepared to teach, encouraged to serve our kids, but most importantly, excited to be a teacher. So in the next year, we're going to continue to work on full-year residency programs in our systems of higher ed. We're going to continue to fight for the resources teachers and administrators need in their schools and classrooms. But more importantly, we're going to commit ourselves in the Department of Education to celebrate you, to celebrate all you do in each and every one of your classrooms. So as you've been following us, hopefully on social media, as you've been following our Schools That Teach tour, as you've been engaging with us locally and in larger venues like today, we encourage you to continue to share your stories with us. Tweet the Department of Education a great classroom shot and a great lesson. Tweet or share on Facebook with the Department of Education a community event. Make sure you take the time to inform us of how you are changing lives in your community. And we will make it a point to share those stories with the broader education community. Because with a little work, and they see the great things that are happening in your district, they will become better encouraged to do the same in theirs. And only by improving our practice and being more visible will we identify and encourage our next generation of educators to step up, serve, and lead. And if you question this, think about an interesting phenomenon that's happening. I spend a lot of time in my car. Hear way too much radio. I've kind of memorized a good half-dozen new pop songs. Got a little country in my repertoire now, some talk radio. But I started to know this real shift in commercials. Right, so I was listening to a sock commercial. I'm not going to give free advertising, so I'm not going to share who it was. But instead of discussing the product of the sock, they spoke about how socks are contributing back to their community. How they're making sure their mission is to, cover the feet of everyone who needs it, I guess. But then I also noticed the same trend with razors, t-shirts, shoes. So our community is taking a shift from advertising specific products to advertising about the members of their communities and how their communities are giving back and how they're trying to make a difference in the lives of their consumer base. Because they're realizing that's what folks are really interested in knowing more, engaging more about now. And I thought, as I listen and I hear those commercials, I think to myself, it's an interesting shift when large companies are taking the time and expending the resources to share that message. And I also remind myself, what they're identifying and touting, by the thousands or maybe even 10,000s, some of the larger company making a difference in the lives of 100,000 consumers. It's what we've been doing as educators our entire career, and for most of us, our entire lives. So if they're looking at building a fan base, if they're looking at building a consumer base, if they're using their time and energy to show how they're making a difference in the lives of their community, market research must be on to something. And so I think it's important that individuals like us in this room that do it without expected fanfare or return start to do the same and not be embarrassed about it. And so today, when you engage with each other in professional development, as you look to learn more to improve your practice, as you meet over a cup of coffee for breakfast, or a glass of cold iced tea after the sessions, iced tea. Remember, it's an early day tomorrow. Remember this. You are the occupation that creates all other occupations. You're the vision that sets all other visions. And your mission is truly the mission that transforms communities, one learner at a time. And for that, the state's top cheerleader thanks you. He encourages you to share, and he wants you to know that your work is not only appreciated, but each and every day it's noticed and it's shared. So as the video shared, let me be the last in this segment to say thank you, thank you, thank you.